and we are recording.
Okay.
And now this is the part where I freeze up because it says we're recording. Everyone's watching us.
Because it's live.
Yeah. Yeah, luckily
Seen by millions.
And we are here to talk about being competitive with my Uncle Brian, aren't we?
Awesome.
This is my Uncle Brian.
Thank
everyone.
you. And this is my nephew, Calvin.
Hey, your competitive nephew. We had some fun family reunion competitions. Mostly it was basketball and tennis growing up. Well, and beach volleyball.
And some ping pong.
Oh, and ping pong at my Aunt Marcia's.
Yeah.
What else did we do? We turned horseshoes into competition.
Yes.
Fierce competition.
Yes, you always elected to receive. I never understood.
Let's see. Well, let's take it back to when we were kids. We're going to talk about competition, what it's like being a competitor, what it's like having that competitive energy, and how to release it in a healthy way versus it being just pure anger and frustration.
Sure.
So what is it like for you when your competitive switch turns on and you go from happy Uncle Brian to, I'm going to destroy everyone? I assume you get this. I get it. Even when it's the most casual and non-competitive environment, I sometimes my switch goes on and I'm out for blood.
There we are. No, absolutely. The adrenaline kicks in, that will to win, because everything's about, at that point is winning. I think, you get energized. I mean, you said it, you get energy. It's funny because Karen, your Aunt Karen has accused me and said, "Oh, everything's a competition with Keeney's, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah, you might as well get used to it."
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes.
So where do you think that started? Do you think that was something growing up, or do you think it's just in our blood? Because, I mean, me and my brothers, I don't know of anything that would have stopped us from competing, especially me and my younger brother.
Yeah.
So we had to have it.
That's a great question. I know that growing up, obviously I was the fifth of six, and so I had three older brothers and an older sister, and my parents were always, we were playing football or whatever, and there was always some sort of competition. It was friendly for the most part, but you just get used to that. It's like, winning is important, but and I say winning is important because it is, but at the same time, a lot of it is just the competition. I get as much fun nowadays, and probably to a certain extent when I was younger as well, when I can just go up against somebody that's good at something, whether it's basketball, and just try my hardest and trying to beat that person. And it was from growing up. I mean, it's just, you're always competing for something, and you get that energy, you get that drive to win.
You said that well. That's definitely a trait of a competitive person. I'm the same way. If I'm playing against someone that I deem as not as skilled or good at something as I am, it's way less fun for me versus me going up against a Goliath in the sport or game that I'm playing. And it's just that, I don't know what it is. Like, I'd rather lose 20 times to someone that's the best than beat someone 100 times that I feel is just like I've already surpassed. So I don't know what that is. Sometimes it's a
good question, but I have met people that are kind of funny that way, that they actually will set up like a pickup game of basketball. Okay. And you're picking up teams right outside of just shooting for it. If you're picking up teams, I've known people who will stack the teams so that they know they have a better team and they know they will win. I never liked that. I'd rather it be an evenly matched set, so you don't know who's going to win going in.
Yeah, I actually have a tendency to stack them the other way, like where I am the underdog, and it's like me versus 8 people. I don't know what it is about me, but I'm not as much like that as I've gotten a little older, but it's definitely a part of me. If I'm going to make the teams, I'm going to make them lopsided where I'm the underdog.
Outside of your favor. No, I get that. I'm kind. I mean, I wouldn't stack it like so it's so overwhelmingly against me, but I would. if I'm gonna err on the side of slighting one side, I'm the same way. Just because first of all, I don't want to be seen to be like, oh yeah, you're stacking so you can win. That's
Yeah.
part of it. But it's also, I like that competition. I mean, I can remember in college, I had a friend of mine who played for the basketball team, and after he finished his eligibility, I became friends with him. So we go to the gym and we play 1-on-1. I never beat him, and he would actually let me get like he'd kind of just play halfway until I got to 9, and then in gear, and he kicked my butt. And it was frustrating,
I
but
bet.
it made me better. I mean, it made me, and I fought the whole way. I mean, and it's the fighting, it's the attempt that you love.
So what are your ways of getting your competitive energy out nowadays? Is it still basketball, or is it what are you
No, I
playing?
stopped playing basketball a couple of years ago for a variety of reasons, but I've gone into tennis now, so I'm playing tennis a couple times a week. I play golf in the summertime. I play golf, and golf is funny because it's competitive, and I enjoy it. I love playing, but it's not the same thing. I don't get the same adrenaline rush as I do from more active sports like tennis or basketball or football or whatever.
That's interesting.
I mean, we have a regular set of guys that I play against, and we do have competitions and all that kind of thing, and it's always fun to win. But I don't get the same thrill that I do with beating somebody in tennis that's maybe I would deem to be better than me.
Lately, for me, it's been pickleball.
There you
A
go.
little bit of tennis, but I've become a huge fan of pickleball. It takes a lot of the things that I felt was fun in tennis and made it into a sport itself.
Okay.
It's like being up at the net, the kitchen is what
Sure.
it's called in pickleball, and just
What
having that
got you
fast
started
pace.
in pickleball?
Huh?
What got you started in pickleball? I'd never heard of it until you guys started playing.
Oh yeah, I'd heard of it on and off a couple times over the course of a year or two, and then one day, me and Drew, my younger brother, were playing tennis at some courts, and just so happened that this group showed up, and they were playing this really shortened version of what looked like tennis, but with a weird ball and paddle. And finally, I was like, that looks so fun. And I went over and asked them. They're like, oh, this is pickleball. And I was like, that's what pickleball is.
Yeah.
Wondering after this whole time. So then even like 8, 9, 10 months later, it took before we actually played and found a place. And we're like, all right, we got to try this out. I saw it on a video. A YouTube vlogger vlogged about it. And I was like, that looks so fun. He was playing against Andy Roddick and Andre Agassi, two of the people that I looked up to in tennis. So I was like, man, this looks so fun. And then it was crazy. Like me and Drew went out and played, and I was immediately hooked, and I've just been playing ever since. That's been 10 months ago now or so. What's crazy is the vlog that I saw it on. It was a vlog. The guy was from New York, but he was playing in Austin at a charity event.
Okay.
And like 6 months later, after I learned about it and started playing, I ended up getting invited to that court, and I didn't know it at the time. I went out some guy named Steve's pickleball court, and then I get there and I'm looking around like, this looks really familiar. And then I see the same scene that I saw in the video, and I was like, hey, did you have Andy Roddick and Andre Agassi out here? Yeah. I was like, holy crap, this is what made me interested in pickleball.
Got me hooked in the first place.
Yeah. So that's a crazy pickleball story of mine.
Well, Karen and I actually bought a beginner set of pickleball just to try it. And we've gone out once or twice to hit it. I haven't played it competitively yet, so I can't say that I can't tell you that I like it or I don't like it until I'm sure I'll play you at some point.
Yeah, it's definitely a sport. I mean, the average age is over 60 that plays it. So it's it tends to be more of a social thing in a lot of the groups. If you have a lot of people in your community that play it, I'm sure you'll be able to find some people to release that competitiveness in it. But the majority, maybe 80 to 90%, are just pickup games to help people stay active and social. And I think that's what's so good about it.
Yeah, and I've seen the markings on some of the tennis courts around here, but I can't say that I've actually seen anybody play.
Huh.
So
we have some pretty good people that form games out here in Austin. So we usually have games that we can go play every week. So that's pretty nice.
That's nice. Yeah.
And I'm a part of a league, which is also helpful from that competitiveness. I know when I was just starting the league. It was fun because I knew my competitiveness and that just the way I usually end up, because I'm so competitive, I usually end up above the rest of the group after a while, above the social group. So when I was just learning, I was like, man, I probably have maybe a year and a half before I outgrow the majority of players, just because of my competitiveness. Because when I'm wanting to play, like I don't want to lose, so I'll go out and practice more than everyone else that just is ready to play for fun. So I'm out there practicing my serve and doing all this stuff, and eventually that will cause me to outgrow the group for a competitiveness. I still love, it's still fun socially, but at some point I'm trying to, there's this group of 5-0 pickleball players, which is like basically semi-pro or pro pickleball players. We have like 10 to 15 of them in Austin. And it's like this myth that I hear. It's like, I heard the 5-0 players are going to this place to play. It's just like this myth I keep hearing, and I've seen a couple of them here and there, but I don't know how to get a part of it. So like right now, my competitive mission is like to get so good that I can be accepted in that group, so that I can learn to play with the pros.
Well, that's funny you should say that, because that's a key point. Is that if I'm playing basketball, or when I played basketball, to be accepted by the group that you look at and like, those guys are really good. To be accepted by, even though the last 5 years I was playing basketball, I was playing with guys who were in their 20s and 30s. Some of them actually played pro ball at some level, in Europe or whatever. And almost all of them played college level. And
that's a good group.
It was a good group. Yeah, it's some pretty good basketball. I wasn't as good as they were, and I knew that. They knew that, but I was competitive. I held my own, and and you always know it. You know this. You always know it because they would pass me the ball. If they didn't accept, you know how that works.
Yeah.
Even if you're out on the court, they're like, nah, don't pass them the ball. Maybe unspoken.
Like, in between games, like, they're looking at you.
Ixnay on S paid. Ryan.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
That is part of it, and I think the other part, you asked growing up, and it's your dad. Your dad was the oldest sibling in the group. I always subconsciously compared myself to him. And so I was always trying to beat him in whatever sport we were playing. And, even if they're, at the risk of sounding like I'm being cocky, but I know, I got to the point where I was, surpassed him in basketball. Okay. I still have in my mind, there's still that comparison to, I need to be able to beat Mike. And so
I have that.
Yeah. So and probably with my dad, because I played tennis with my dad when I was younger, and until I was an older teenager, I couldn't beat him. So there was always that I need to get better so I can beat my dad. And so there is that. You kind of have this image in your head. Your dad could be in a wheelchair. I'll still be comparing myself.
Yep, same for me and my brothers.
Yeah,
I think that's a big thing about it, the competitiveness in me. It's like, and once I beat the person that I'm trying to beat currently, then it's on to the next. It's like, okay, well, now who's the next group I want to get into? Who's the next group I want to play against?
Who's up? Yeah, exactly.
And to me, like, as much as I don't want to admit this to myself, the more I think about it, it's like, am I just like, am I just seeking acceptance or is it me actually being competitive? Like, I'm trying to figure this out. Like, what's actually going on in my brain? But I do know that when I go a long time, weeks, I don't know how long a long time is, but when I go a long time without competition, I just don't feel excited about life.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, you know exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Karen will tell you that. She goes, it's been a couple of weeks, right? I get antsy. I'm like, I get dissatisfied with, I need that outlet. I need that, whether win, lose, or draw, I want to be playing. I want to be competing.
Yeah. And even if there's nothing at stake other than our pride.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Just put pride on the line.
Yeah, put pride out there. Say pride. Yeah.
I get that. That's how I was when I was a kid. That's how I still am. And I didn't notice that at first. Like, I went a while without any form of competition, and I just got really sad and just I don't know, life was boring at the time. And then I was like, oh, as I got older, I was like, oh, I need that competitiveness. I don't know
Yeah.
why I need it. And I know it's different from, maybe 19 out of 20 people don't need that, but I
Right.
know I need it. And so it can be kind of socially, what's the word? Like you can't separate. Yeah. Isolating, because I know I need it, but other people don't get it. So they don't understand why someone would need to release competitive energy.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people obviously are competitive, and there are some that aren't. I mean, some of you just don't care that much. Okay. Mm-hmm. I have trouble understanding that, but that's okay. And I'm sure there are people, probably most professional athletes have even more drive and more competitive nature in them than what you and I are describing, that they just hate losing. Actually, I've heard it said by some professionals, they hate, it's not that they hate losing more than they love winning.
Yeah,
they just
I've heard
hate
that.
losing. And there's an old story by that Larry Bird walked into a 3-point shooting contest, at the All-Star game. He walked in, and the other competitors were there, and he looked at them all. He goes, "Okay, who's coming in second?"
That's amazing.
Yeah, they have that drive way beyond anything. I mean, obviously they have talent, but they have that drive way beyond. So whatever you and I have, they have that, 1,000 times that.
And I mean, I go through periods where I have an insane amount of drive, and like a lot of it for me, you're not quite as short as me, but I have this little man syndrome. Like it comes from the basketball growing up. It's like being accepted. Like, hey, I'm good. Just because I'm short doesn't mean I'm bad. Yeah. So then I had to have the extra drive to.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was actually gonna ask you a question that was related to that. I hate losing more than winning. So for you personally, would you rather lose 12-11 or win 12-0? I know there's a lot of variables there. It's like, who am I playing? Sure. Like,
no, I get it. But, so would I rather lose 12-11 or win 12? I'd rather lose 12-11.
Yeah, for sure. Because that means like it was, for me too. And then I thought of it, well, what if I'm losing 12-11 for the rest of my life versus winning 12-0? No, I think it's still losing. Like, yeah. Because at least it's engaging.
It's engaged. Yeah. If I win 12-0, that usually means I'm that much better, and I didn't have to give it my best. But if I lost 12-11, that means I lost. That person beat me. I mean, it wasn't because I just kind of like went through the motions, and so, I get a lot of joy out of that. I mean, I was just saying, okay, you beat me, and you beat me. I used to, when I played softball for years, and
you played fast pitch softball, right?
I never played
or fast pitch baseball, or no?
I did play baseball. I did play when I was, I don't know, 40. I think I played about 3 or 4 years.
I remember coming to one of your games, and y'all were saying, "Oh, Cal Ripken, who I'm named after, was here like a week or two ago." I was like, "Oh, I miss seeing it, like the person I'm named after."
But I played in a church league softball, which was competitive, but sometimes not, a little bit
more social. Yeah.
And people would be like, you got to back off a little bit, and I'm like,
you back off.
I'm not a dirty player at all. I never have been. I play by the rules and all that. But I told this guy one time, I said, listen, if my grandmother were playing third base, I'd be ripping the ball down the line just to see if she could catch it. Because if she's playing, you better be out there to play.
Yep.
It's like, sorry, that's just how, and if you don't want to play that way, okay, that's fine, but I am going to play that way. And so just as an example, I played tennis the other day. I was playing doubles, and I was at the net, and this guy across from me, he was able to go in on a short ball, and he just absolutely ripped it right at my face. And he should have actually hit it more toward my body to make it harder to get out of the way. And it was the right shot, and I was able to move my head just enough to whiz by. If I had hair, my hair would have been blown. And and the other guy on the other team kind of looked at me like, "Is he gonna get mad?" I just laughed. I'm like, "That's the right play." If I don't want that, I shouldn't be out there.
You bring up such a good point. We have that in pickleball too. And so as I've gotten older and as I've realized I am different, I am more highly competitive than the average person. I get that.
Sure.
When I'm playing socially, yeah. And I coach pickleball. I coach tennis now. And when I'm coaching, I try mentally to figure out, are they competitive or, are they just casual? So some of the shots I teach and some of the shots I encourage, it's like, well, the right shot is to hit it directly at their body. But, if I'm teaching someone that's just going to be playing casually with a bunch of other people that are playing casually, don't try to bean them with it.
Yeah.
But, when we're playing competitively and all four players are competitive, it's like, no, I want my opponents to hit me because that's
the right shot.
It might sting a little bit, but great shot. I shouldn't have popped it up to you. That was my bad.
No, and I hear you. And I know we're at some point going to talk about how do you raise kids, being on the dad side of things.
Well, let's talk about that.
Well, okay. And as Jordan and Lizzie were growing up, obviously if I'm truly playing against them in something, I'm going to beat them if they're 8 years old, so I had to learn how to play with them so that it was competitive, but, learn how to trim mine back so that the games were competitive and still fun, so and there is that balance. I mean, you don't want to go too far where it's like,
12-0.
Yeah. Or I'm going to make you feel bad for not playing well. No, I mean, there's that whole dad part of you that you want to build up the kids and all that kind of thing. So it's not as easy as I would have thought going into parenthood.
I think that's actually a very positive and healthy trait of being competitive in that, because I'm the same way. Like, I don't have kids of my own, but I've worked with kids and I've helped people, and I'm a big fan and believer of you shouldn't just straight up let someone win, because that's not how life works. When you when you go to a new job, they don't just let you work there because you're nice or something. Yeah. So you do have to earn a lot of stuff in life, and I think it's good. I mean, not to just crush the person like you said, but to make it realistic. Like, well, you didn't beat me because you're not better than me yet. You got 14 more years to work on that. Right. Maybe let them have a little victory here and there, but overall, you don't win at things that you're not better at the person at usually.
Right. Yeah. You're right. That's life. I mean, I at work, I mean, I've been managing people for a long time, and I run manufacturing plants, and so there's a lot of numbers involved as far as how you're performing on a daily basis, blah, blah, blah. And I tell them, because most of them can relate to sports like I do, I said, look, we're putting these systems in place to measure your performance because I want to know if we're winning or losing. I said, it's about, if there's no scoreboard, how do you know if you're winning? How do you know how you're doing? And if we want to be competitive in the marketplace, then we need to be able to keep score. And we need to be able to say, okay, this is how we're performing today by the numbers, by the score. And then if we want to be competitive in the future, and people relate to that. I tell them, it's like, yeah, you walk
cut out
into
just a second.
That's okay. That's all right.
You said if we want to be competitive in the future, to measure that success.
And and how do I know if I'm getting better? And I'm getting better. It's just like you were saying. You play somebody that's better than you, and eventually you beat them. Well, you just showed that you got better, unless that person just got worse, which is always possible. But it's still you got better relative to that person, and that's I tell people, look, when you walk into a football stadium, what's the first thing you do? You look at the scoreboard.
Yep.
Just that's keeping
it's
score.
Human nature. Yeah.
It's human. It really is, and it doesn't mean you don't. Doesn't mean you don't cooperate because you cooperate as a team member. But you know how it is if you're on a basketball team. When you're practicing, you're trying to get better. You hope the team gets better, but you're also competing against that other point guard.
Right.
As for who's going to start. So you want to compete, but you got to cooperate too. So it's a tough thing.
So you're a manager of, you've been manager of manufacturing plants and stuff. When you see other managers and other higher ups in big organizations, do they tend to have that competitiveness in them, or is it kind of not necessarily?
They do. Most of them do. It's a little more hard. It's a little harder to discern. It's easier to see it on in a sporting event, but most of them are pretty competitive. Especially the higher up they go, there are a lot of people that operate at a high level in an organization. At some point, the money becomes less important. It's more about, my organization is now more successful because I'm leader of that organization or whatever. I'm not saying money isn't important.
Right.
It is. And then people like to be, compensated for being good at what they do. But I think that so much of it is that the money is a way of showing that you're better than somebody else. If that's good. It's not just for what it can buy you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I've talked and watched other people. I do my own projects. I try to make money on my own without a boss. Haven't done it successfully, where it completely supplements my life. But, over the last 3 years, I've really gone all in on trying to create ways to make money on my own. And I've noticed as I do this, I noticed that other people in my same shoes, whether they're successful or trying to be successful at it, they tend to be fairly competitive.
Sure.
It's more that, there is a huge amount of challenge that goes into, I'm going to make money on my own without a boss, without, and that is, I've heard over when I was trying, I've heard a lot like, oh, that's hard. That's almost impossible. And I'm like, where most people would run, I'm like, ooh, competition. I'm like, almost impossible. Did you say almost impossible? Yes. All right, let's do it. So, I spend 3 years of my life and basically all of my savings to try to do this just to see if I can prove to myself that I can do something extremely hard. And for me, competition in the business and workplace, I'm all about that. Mark Cuban, the owner of the Mavericks, he wrote this book about like the competition of business, or I don't know the exact name, but that's one of the few books I've read since college, and it was really good. And it kind of really, I've probably read that 6, 7, 8 years ago now, and that's one of the ones that kind of pushed me to wanting to be my own manager and own and stuff. And so I was like, oh, it can be done. It takes a whole lot of work. It's really competitive. It's not easy. I'm like, sign me up. I'll lose money for 10 years just in hopes of trying to be able to say that I did it.
I did
for myself.
No, absolutely. A couple of years ago when Karen and I bought a franchise, we bought it, and part of it, you hear all the horror stories. Oh, 7 out of 10 small businesses fail within the first couple of years, and and all that. Same thing you're talking about. It's a
I heard a lot of doom and gloom stories.
And gloom stories. So it's like, okay, I get it. And it's, you don't want to be foolish about things, but at the same time, it's like you said it. It's almost impossible. Okay,
let's see what we can do. Roll up our sleeves. See what we can do.
Yeah, exactly. So, and how many times you hear sports stories about the big underdog that knocked off. That you're too young to remember. Chaminade out of Hawaii, played University of Virginia when they had Ralph Sampson, who was 7'4" or whatever it is. They were ranked number 1, and Chaminade was a Division II school, a Division II or a small Division.
Wow.
1. They knocked them off. They beat it. It's like been considered one of the biggest upsets of all time in college basketball.
Crazy.
And they figured out. It's like, can you beat them? Probably not. And if they played them 99 more times, they wouldn't have won. But they beat them that one time.
That's why you lace them up.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I love the competition in business, and I had a lot of doom and gloom stories, and you read them like, oh, you shouldn't try this, and you're probably going to lose. So for me, I took the reasonable approach. As you said, you don't want to be foolish and just like go into debt and take on credit cards that you can't pay, whatever. Like, you don't want to ruin your life trying to do it. But for me personally, I was like, okay, I saved up. I was really good at saving money and I invested it well. And so I built up a nice amount of capital that, to some people, if I were to say, are you okay with losing $50,000 trying to do your own thing? I'd be like, no.
No.
But for me, I'm like, well, I might lose all of this and it might not pay off at all. And I might spend hundreds or thousands of hours doing this and it might not pay off at all. I might lose it all. But for me, I was okay with it just because, again, like, I'd rather die doing this and losing than be winning 12-0, working at a company and being bored my whole life.
Right. Exactly.
It's just who I am. And I think that's important for parents to understand, like, when they have a kid like that, to encourage them to do things that are competitive, healthy releases. Because if you don't, I mean, this, if you're not competitive, they get bored, they get sad, they get angry, they get frustrated at life. That's how I was.
Yeah. And if you don't, you got to find what's right for you, but at the same time, you got to try, and if you're not trying and you're not, and it could be, it doesn't have to be sports as far as I'm concerned. If you're a musician and, and you love being whatever that is, a trumpet player, and then keep practicing, keep working at it, because that's important. And then it fulfills that drive, because if it's always just given to you, or it's like, well, you just take the easy way out and just don't try that hard. Yeah, you're exactly right. It has a negative impact on what goes on in your head and your heart. And it's like, I can do these other things, but it's boring to me.
Right.
You don't want to be bored. So
when I was a kid, and if I ever have kids, something that I will do for them to support them, and something that was helpful for me is, give me a sport, give me a couple of sports. Let me go try them. Give me some music stuff. Give me some karate. Give me some, healthy stuff. Give me some mental stuff where we, try out a bunch of stuff and then see what the kid is interested in.
Yeah. What resonates?
Forcing them to do something they don't like, even if they're competitive, they probably won't like it. Or, if they're competitive and don't like it, usually what happens in my experience is they're still competitive in that, but they hate it. So it's just a complete ball of frustration and anger for me. And that's not good.
No, you're right. You got to find the thing that resonates with you, and then, push the limits as far as you can and say, is this what I want? And so let's go for it. That's, regardless of what arena it's in.
Another thing that helped me, and you can give your advice on this, is actually finding other competitive kids to intermix with. Because, when you have one competitive kid and 9 not competitive, and they're doing something that they all like, that one competitive kid, in my experience, again, this has happened over and over to me throughout my life growing up, is, well, I feel isolated. I'm trying to win. Everyone else is just having fun. Yeah. And that's cool. Like, I respect that of them, but I want other people to bash heads with, in football term or whatever.
No, it's exactly right. One of the things that I'll tell a personal story here with Karen's family is that, they play board games and cards and stuff like that. What I found was, and we have a good time doing it, but what I found was most of it is spent just talking, and it's a social thing, which is fine. I'm playing to win. Not that I'm not going to talk, but I'm like, enough talking. Let's play the game. So it's a very different dynamic where, and you got to, it's like you said, you got to, and so to your analogy of, you got the 9 kids who are just there for the social aspect of it. Okay, that's fine. But you need to find, and if that kid likes those kids and wants to be around them, okay, that's good too. But then find that other place where they can compete against people that are going to be pushing up against them, and they're pushing up against each other, so that they can challenge each other. So it's not an either or. It's how do you find that outlet in both. So,
like, for me now, this is a good example that I can think of off the top of my head. Now I play pickleball. Maybe I play 3 times a week, and then I coach a bunch as well, but I play about 3 times a week. If all 3 of those times are social over, months, that will not be healthy for me as a competitive person. But, once a week, if one out of those 3 things are a competitive way to get my competitive juices out, I'm much more happier. I'm much more satisfied. And and I have found that, like, once a week I play in a league and other people are there to compete in the league, and it's fun. And then maybe 1 to 3 other times during the week I'm playing socially, and then I'm there just, more talking and helping people
have
learn
a good
how to
time.
play. So that finding that balance is really important for competitive people. And I hope that other competitive people can get that in their life, especially kids that don't even know that's what's causing problems. Competitiveness is causing anger and frustration.
Well, sure. If there's no outlet, and I'm not enough of a social scientist to know how much of that is hardwired into people versus. I mean, I tend to think that a lot of it is hardwired because there seems to be it would seem logical to me that there's an evolutionary component to that. It's like if you want to eat, you better be able to hunt a little bit better than that other guy.
That's a great analogy.
That whether that's true or not, that's just, I have no idea. But it seems logical to me.
I mean, I'm not a social scientist either, Uncle Brian, but I would say I didn't go to social scientist school. But
but I bet if you did, you would be the best social scientist.
Oh, thank you. I'm so competitive, and I got to figure out everything.
Exactly.
But no, you're exactly right. One of the things I think about is I truly think that, and I might not appear this on the outside, but on the inside, I'm very alpha male. And I think that has a lot to do with that competitiveness, hardwired, as you said, thousands of years ago, we didn't have an abundance like we do now, in the sense that, if you weren't the top, you might not get to eat or you might not get to have a family. Like that was just the king or whatever. So I don't know what it is, but I really think that a lot of it has to do with me secretly being very alpha male.
Sure. No, and I've seen it playing against you and watching you play, is that when I see, you said that switch that gets turned on, all of a sudden it's like, okay, we're just goofing off before. Now it's serious, and it's not serious like we're, get mad at you, but it's serious.
Serious in that I'll get mad at you.
Very well.
Mad at me. No, I'm just.
People get mad at me for lots of reasons.
Yeah. No, it's and sometimes, honestly, another thing that I want to talk about real quick before we have to go is, it's honestly, as a competitive person, it's embarrassing a lot of times. Like sometimes I know that competitive switch got turned on and it's not the right environment for it. And it's really embarrassing. Like I've embarrassed myself, and afterwards I feel bad. I feel ashamed. But as I get older, it's like, well, I need to do a better job of finding better outlets for this so that it doesn't get turned on at the wrong time. And I make friendships go to crap and, look like a fool at a social event,
Yeah, I think for me, that usually it would happen if I lost my temper, playing, because I don't remember a time having to apologize for being competitive per se. Maybe I should have apologized. Realize it, but it was more, okay, something happened and I let the situation get away from me. And I got angry and said things I shouldn't have said, or, maybe, did some things I shouldn't have done. And I had to apologize for going too far with, letting the anger get away from me. And age kind of does cure that to a certain, for some people, although I've seen guys my age continue to do it. And I'm like, dude, you're almost 60 years old. You're not getting paid for this. It's okay to get angry about not playing well. That's okay. I mean, because I still do, but don't throw your racket across the court. Don't act like a child. Don't throw a temper tantrum.
That's a good point. What are some ways that you found to help? When you sense and that you're going into from competitive to angry and losing your temper, what are some ways that you found to help calm that before it ends up being a racket thrown across the court, or the basketball thrown at someone's, whatever it may be?
Yeah.
Not that I've ever thrown a basketball at someone or thrown my racket,
That's never happened.
But some people that I've heard that are competitive might have done these things.
hypothetically speaking,
Hypothetically speaking,
somewhere, somehow.
if we're on a family reunion trip and
Yeah, that's never happened. Wow, that's
I'll say one. You don't have to listen to this while I talk, but just for the audience, you can think of your own. But for me is, this is a great example. I was playing in a tennis tournament with my younger brother, which we have never, I think it was our first, maybe second tennis tournament to ever play in. And I couldn't hit a forehand. I couldn't hit a backhand. All I could do was hit volleys. And it was very frustrating. And towards the end of one of the matches, I truly felt that I was losing the game for us. Mm-hmm. And that was really frustrating as a competitive person. Like, I'm letting Drew down. I'm not pulling my weight. They're picking on me. They're hitting it to me, and I'm losing the points, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And one thing that really helped, it was probably halfway through the third set or something. I don't remember, maybe halfway through the second. But I just thought, I took like a couple breaths and just went to the fence and looked out. And I thought, this is so cool that I'm getting to play with Drew. Like, growing up, he was always too young for me to play with him in tournaments because the age gap.
Right.
And now here we are. I'm playing with Drew. Like, I've been wanting to do this all my whole life, and now I'm here, and I'm letting my anger and frustration at my own play get in the way. Let's have fun. You know, I'm doing really bad at ground strokes. Let's try to get to the net. Just hit whatever you can to get up to the net. Right. So I focused my energy on that. Like, let's get up to the net. You're not, you know, even if you are ruining his day, like you don't have any control over what he feels about you. And really, he probably doesn't feel that about you.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, he might just be projecting that. And
then
not. So, yeah.
He might be worried about his own shots he's missing or whatever. So that truly helped in that particular situation. I try to do those kind of things going forward. Like, be happy for what is going on. Be happy that I am competing. Be happy that I am doing something active and meeting people.
I think that's a good way to put it. I think for me, I mean, some is just, like I said, getting older, you kind of, you learn to put it in perspective. But beyond that, when I started playing golf more seriously, which was about 5 or 6 years ago, golf is not cheap. It takes a fair amount of time and it takes money. And I would play with people that would get so angry if they were playing badly or whatever. And I'm like, and I step back and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm paying a lot of money to get frustrated. I can get frustrated for free.
Yeah.
So I finally okay. And so it helped me to kind of put that in perspective to say, I love playing and I love playing well and I hate playing poorly. But when it starts to get that anger component coming in, I'm going to like, okay, this is silly to have spent this amount of money. I'm outside. It's a nice day. I'm with some friends. We're having a good time. Don't ruin it by that. And so the same thing, so that's probably what helped me kind of get that mental aspect of it to say, because I still get frustrated with tennis and, and like, man, what is wrong with you? Today I'm playing horribly. Last week I played great. I cannot be more consistent. But it's like, I'm out here running around, I'm 58 years old. I'm playing with guys that are 30 and 40. I'm proud of that. I'm happy with it.
I'm still moving.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not in a wheelchair. I'm not. There are plenty of people that are like, yeah, I can't play anymore because my knees, my ankles.
I think that's really big. Just both of us basically said the same thing. Gratitude, being happy for.
Yeah, there you go. That's a great way.
That kind of, when you're going from competitive to temper tantrums going up, it's like, gratitude brings it back down a bit.
Gratitude,
and it's still very hard in the moment. Sure. Be happy. Yeah. It's not like it goes from temper tantrum to happy, but it goes.
No, you're not happy.
Back to okay. Well, this isn't the end of the world if I can't hit the shot.
Yeah, exactly. And you're not, and you're acting in a way that's appropriate, not like I said, you're not. What are you, 10?
Yeah, exactly.
So you're right. Gratitude is the key to that.
Uncle Brian, we'll have to talk more about this later. I know we have competitive jobs to go back to.
Yes, we have competitive. No, that was great. I appreciate it.
No, I do too.
All your questions. I don't know if you had any other ones that.
I just kind of wanted to talk. I'm sure I could think of a lot more, but we covered the main stuff. Just knowing that other people are very competitive and how to help. And
have the outlet.
Get that outlet in a healthy way versus just going into temper tantrum mode.
Yeah.
I've done plenty of times. It's embarrassing. And yeah.
Sure.
Anyway. Well, thanks,
And
Uncle Brian.
we will probably do it again, especially at the beach,
Yep.
I'm sure.
I'm sure there will be a time or two where I do it again, and just being grateful in that moment and trying to bring it back down to not temper.
That's right.
Just right before, and before I start throwing the racket too. Just
stop.
A little bit before that, just be grateful.
Bring it down.
Bring it down. I am happy that I'm here talking to Uncle Brian.
There you go. Well, thank you for asking me to participate in that. It was a lot of fun.
Well, thanks for joining in. And
sure,
I know
no problem.
This isn't sometimes we kind of have to, I do have competitiveness and I do get temper tantrum. That's not the funnest thing to admit, but you were a trooper.
we're human. So
yeah. Well, have a good one.
All right. Good talking to you, Calvin.
You too, Uncle Brian.